And it's all about giving a number to a tag. That's really all it is. And the number starts at 0, it's immature, progresses through some key stages, and the bold ones, 3, 5, 7, and 9. I do apologise, we've got a slight overlap there on the slide. It's a problem with the format. Those are the key ones. Is it good to share? Has somebody started to build according to this information? Is it finished on the construction site? Have I handed it over? And then the less bold ones, the non-bold, are lead-ups to those key stages. So, and every component on the job should have, must have, a report stage associated with it. So you understand the maturity. That is at the core of maturity management for BP. It's quite a simple technique. It's come from document management, where every document has a revision code. It's exactly the same. It simply applies to tagged items, components. Success story 1. I do apologise for the writing again. It seems to have not come across our incompatible formats again. The situation was you normally try to place piping bulks purchase orders well before you've started the design or finished the design of your piping. So at best, you're placing your purchase orders on an educated guess. And what we've done is if you inform that guess, if you understand the status of every component, you can then say, well, I want to buy a bit more of that stuff, or I won't buy any of that stuff just yet because the design isn't mature enough. So what you often get on construction sites is too much pipe. That's a bad thing because it costs a lot of money and you never get the money back when you sell it back to the supplier. Or, far worse, not enough pipe because that means you can't build. So if you apply maturity management techniques to this and continue to refine the design and refine the order as you go through, you can actually focus your delivery of your piping materials in order and save costs in order to deliver the constructed item at the end. Remember, this is like 10,000 pipes on a construction site. An awful lot of materials, all different sizes, all different materials, valves, flanges, etc., etc., etc. There's an awful lot of stuff there. We use this technique to reduce the wastage on a major project. I'm just checking the words. We reduce the material costs because we normally waste about 20% of our pipe work in this area. We actually drove the material cost down to. We reduced the material cost by about 10%, piping bulk materials, which is a very significant component. In other words, we halved the wastage or thereabouts, simply by using this technique. It's extremely powerful. Another success story is a much larger one than this, and this is all about some projects we had in Azerbaijan, or 2 platforms we built in Azerbaijan. There was one called East Azeri and one called West Azeri, and I can never remember which order they go in. But they are sisters of one another, but they're not the same. They are 10% different, because one's over there and producing from that field, and one's over there and producing from that field. They have different product flowing through them. But the differences are not, they're 10%, they're manageable. So we decided what we would do, I'll just click a few times. They're also 6 months apart in schedule, which is a huge benefit, by the way. And the operations group said, we want exactly the same design. And we said, well, you can't have that because they're slightly different in their process plant. And they said, okay, we want it as the same as possible then, please. The norm for design is about 30 to 40 man-hours a ton, roughly that, okay? Just remember that number for a while. And a man-hour is about £100 cost at the moment in the oil and gas industry. So we didn't want to design, we didn't want to design the identical items twice. That's a no-brainer. We wanted to focus our engineering on the differences. So we needed to identify the differences. So we came up with a list of differences. And then what we did was we copied the design at component level, but not on a certain date. We copied the design when the components had reached a certain level of maturity, approved for construction. In other words, we could be certain it was unlikely to change. We couldn't be convinced it was going to change, but we knew that if we had to change it, it would be managed via change management. So we developed design on one component and then split at this point of approved design, or report stage 5, if you remember that, the previous slide. So the common components were identical, which is exactly what Ops wanted. We didn't waste time redesigning them, which is exactly what BP wanted at the time. I was working for a client, for a contractor at the time, but it was a BP technique. We ran a copy every night of all the things that had matured during that day. So East Azeri and West Azeri were in sync, and we didn't copy the ones that were different or supposed to be different. We got the engineers to focus on over-designing the differences, making sure they fitted with the existing facilities. What was the result? Well, the norm was 30 to 40 man-hours, but because EA, East Area, was part of a progressive development, we actually got to the bottom end of that, 30 man-hours a ton. 15,000 tons, by the way. This is the size we're talking about. And we actually delivered West Area for 14 man-hours a ton, less than half the design man-hours. We put twice as much effort into engineering the differences, which explains the difference, but it's a significant saving. In fact, £24 million was saved on this one project alone in using this technique. It's my final slide. Why BP are keen on working with Planning Planet? Well, firstly, it's seen as a mutually beneficial relationship which gives BP planners access to online knowledge of a large number of people who have similar experience, which is great. And 20,000 years of experience counts for a lot. It gives us the opportunity to engage with and shape an industry-wide accreditation scheme. BP's working on what we call passport to work. We need good quality, planning teams who know what they're talking about, know what they're doing, know the tools, and actually know the BP way of doing things. So what we're trying to do is align the BP way of doing things with Planning Planet's base skill set. And we want to assure the quality of future employees. That's all about this passport to work thing. And our preference will be for new hires to have guild accreditation. In other words, we would need these guys to have the skills that Planning Planet represent. And then it also gives us access to regional industry benchmarks and trends, and we can compare with the standards of other professional bodies, PMI, etc., etc., etc. And we can gain ideas and practices within industry and within the industry and also within the region. So we don't just want to pick everything from the oil and gas industry. We want to get techniques that other industries have developed as well. And we also want to engage with special interest groups and network with these people to share best practice, to pass on best practice from what we've learned, to learn best practice from what you've learned. As I said, this is a journey. We don't have the answers. We think we have the way to some of the answers. The more we discover the journey, the more we travel along the journey, the more we discover we have to learn. I'm sure you find that to be the case as well.